The short term is more dominated by noise or shorter term factors. The long term is driven by the two key factors, network adoption and debasement of currency. So it's much more forecastable, probabilistically so. The short term is less so. So of course, the short term deviates from the long term often, always does. And people don't want to believe that. So, right, everyone put their hopes and dreams into the M2 chart. I said it's not going to always work perfectly. Everyone reads that as Raoul says it's going to work perfectly and it's always going to match. So then it deviates. So then my job as a macro analyst is to figure out, why is it deviating? What's changed? And you see it deviating on lots of charts, from monetary measures to historical parallels. And it's like, okay, something here has happened that I don't quite understand. So I then do the work on it. And I figure out, okay, this was to do with the and we can talk about the details of it, the withdrawal of liquidity as the Treasury built the general account. And so it's like, okay, it's understandable. We see what's going on. So you adjust your understanding of where you are in that long-term trend and what's going on, and then have the government shutdown. People don't see that. They think it should all work perfectly. It never can do, because the short term always has a lot more noise to signal ratio, and the long term has all of the signal to noise ratio.
Bitcoin Zella stands out with its simplicity and clarity. We've crafted an experience that anyone can dive into, whether you're a crypto expert or just a new to the crypto world. Now, guess who keeps his eye on us? The author of best-selling book Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. And we want to take this opportunity and thank all the people who trusted us, and we read every comment. And the best part, it's free. Subscribing now means you will get all new information for free. Don't just follow the trends, stay ahead of them. Subscribe to Bitcoin Zella today and enjoy the new edge.
Raoul Pal breaks down how to make it in crypto in 2026. Timing, risk, narratives, and portfolio moves. Watch closely today.
I left the hedge fund industry back in 2004 because of this. So back in 2004, I was doing macro. Macro had been a higher volatile strategy, and it was longer term, because what macro means is you're basically trading around macroeconomics, economic forces. Now, there's one ISM data piece or one GDP day space a quarter, one ISM a month. You're using one data piece. So really you need a string of data pieces over a period of time to make a trend. So you're talking about a minimum trade of 6 months. Maybe at turning points, you might get a 3-month trade. But really, it's 18 months to 3 years. That's what macro really is. And then what I realized is, as new investors came into the hedge fund investing space, they forced everybody into monthly mark to market. And then you were judged is how much did you go up or down that month? Not how are you doing over the year or how's that trade doing? And what you found is it didn't matter whether you bought something here and it had gone up there. If it had drawn down against you a bit that month and you're still well in profits, you actually closed the trade. And I'm like, nobody's going to make money like this. What it did was crush volatility and lowered everybody's returns. And the same is happening in crypto today. It got worse with macro, because then the rise of the systems funds and the high-frequency traders and everything else. So macro lost all of its edge from short-term trading. And I left to start Global Macro Investor to prove the point that longer-term time horizons win. And GMI is now easily the best-performing research service in history. And that's with some terrible times when it as well, but it just proves that time horizon is the single best thing that you've got.
Bitcoin's strength versus gold is slipping into a zone traders love to watch. BTC/XAU has fallen to roughly 20 ounces of gold, a level not seen since early 2024, and many see it as the line between bull market confidence and bear market trouble. As gold hangs near highs during the Q4 crypto pullback, Bitcoin looks weak in gold terms, and that's pushing momentum indicators to extremes. Michael van de Poppe thinks the setup smells like a bottom. The weekly RSI on BTC priced in gold is hovering around 29.5, near 3-year lows, and below the classic oversold threshold. He also points to a daily bullish divergence. Price keeps grinding down, but RSI starts curling up, often a hint that selling pressure is fading and a bounce can follow. His thesis is simple. gold is getting overvalued while Bitcoin is getting undervalued. Not everyone's convinced. Some commentators warn that losing the 20-ounce support previously signaled the start of the last bear market, and they expect consolidation before a possible break. The next few weeks could decide whether this is a reset or a rollover.
I keep trying to explain to people, it's all about liquidity. It's the most dominant macro factor of all time right now. It's one game. One game is, what is liquidity doing? The second game we overlay in crypto is, what is the adoption of the particular token asset you're using? Whether it's a layer 2, a layer 1, an applications layer, DeFi, whatever it is like, what's the speed of adoption on top of what's the amount of debasement going on? That's the whole game we're in. So people need to figure out that whole game. Then it gets a little bit complicated because how do we get liquidity? So liquidity in the traditional crypto speak was quantitative easing. They're printing money. But they stopped doing that. And then you had to figure out, it's FedNet liquidity, which is the Treasury General Account and the reverse repo. And if you think about that being the only liquidity that was in the system, they drained the reverse repo. And the Treasury General Account is a checking account. They fill up, drain, fill up, drain. So this keeps going up and down. Doesn't actually help with liquidity. This draining of the reverse repo was the liquidity that we saw. So liquidity kind of rate of change has been low. So that's one element. Liquidity rate of change has been low. Then we've had an extension to the cycle. People said there was like some Satoshi from the gods said, there shall be a 4-year cycle. It shall be so. This bullshit, there has to be a reason for it. It's the same reason the ISM was a perfect cycle. It's the same reason the NASDAQ year-on-year rate of change is a perfect cycle, all the same. They're all driven by this debt cycle we've talked about. From 2008, they reset interest rates to zero. All major countries put their debt into the 3 to 5 year bucket. And so every 4 years, we roll the debt. Now, I start looking at, why is the business cycle not picking up? Why is my thesis not working? While the online attackers like, see, his thesis is bullshit. My job is to say why, to understand why it's not working. And then so I did the foundational work back again of the Everything Code, and we found that in 2021 and 2022, they'd actually lengthened the duration because rates went back down to zero, and they lengthened the duration of the debt maturity to 5 years, just over 5 years. And then it's like, oh, I get it. Normally, year 4 of the cycle was when they have to do all the printing. It's the year of the most amount of debt refi payments. Now it's gone out a year to year 5. So it's 2026. So kind of that's what I'm looking at within this whole structure and trying to understand why it's been slow, because liquidity wasn't required yet. The liquidity really is required in 2026 because we've got $10 trillion to roll. So it's really been that. There's also more tokens in the market.
Yeah.
And so to find the thing that's getting traction requires work or astuteness in sifting through tens of thousands of assets prices, which is why I always say, don't do that. Use the don't fuck this up thesis and just make it easy for yourself. Own mainly big stuff. Don't go too far out the risk curve. And if you do it with a small amount of money. You and I have talked about this endlessly.
Yeah. And
endlessly people go to me, well, you fucked up this cycle. Where was my banana zone? My tokens are down 90%. I'm like, where did I tell you to do that?
Bitcoin's $85,000 level is suddenly the market's stress test. Glassnode data shows BTC has retraced to the average cost basis of U.S. spot Bitcoin ETFs, meaning many ETF holders are sitting right at break even. That matters because December has already seen roughly $300 million in net ETF outflows, while money has been chasing faster horses like Solana. If BTC slips under 85K, those investors go underwater, and some may hit sell just to stop the pain. The problem is U.S. demand doesn't look eager to buy the dip. The Coinbase Premium Index has been sinking deeper into the red, a sign American buyers aren't paying up for Bitcoin, and FOMO is still quiet. That makes any bounce feel less convincing and turns 85K into a thin floor, not a concrete one. On-chain behavior adds more pressure. Long-term holders are still taking profits, while short-term holders are capitulating after the drop from the 126K peak. With supply heavy and sentiment fragile, 85K is the line bulls must defend, or the shakeout gets louder. Watch volume, ETF flows, and the Coinbase premium for confirmation. If you have been watching so far, thank you so much for watching, and do not forget to subscribe to Bitcoin Zella for daily news all for free. That's all for today's video. Until next time.